In this lesson, we'll continue working with some reference planes and parameters. All right, so let's continue on with getting the foundation set for this unique form for our bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and make a quick adjustment to these points we set earlier. I want to adjust the height. I think I went a little overkill on that height, so I'm going to highlight those two, jump to my east, move button, and we're going to drop these guys down about 20 feet. Perfect. And now I can jump back to my 3D view, and I'm going to go back to our images here. So the next parameter we're going to set is basically going to be for this midpoints here at the top of our arches. So the distance between this area here and this area is much less than the distance between, what's going on at the base of our form here. So essentially these two arches are in a way tilting in towards each other. So the base is a wider stance than what's going on at the top. So with that in mind, we'll go back to our project here. We're going to assign a parameter that's going to allow us to select the distance that we have here when we're working with our model, so we have a little bit more flexibility. So the first thing I need to do is I need to set my level 1 as my reference plane. So we'll go set level 1, we'll go to create, and we're going to create an align dimension. So you know that anytime we're creating these parameters, we're going to set our midpoint dimension first, or equidistant, and then we'll take the overall. So I'll go from this point to that point, since it's the midpoint, and we'll go back up to this area. And I'm going to take this out beyond the extent of our model. And I'm going to place, and I'm going to click on my EQ there. And now we're going to do the overall dimension. So we'll go from that point to that point. Easy as that. So now all I just need to do is click on that dimension, drop down label, add parameter, and we'll call this one arch span. So we'll go OK here. And now I should be able to change that dimension. And when I change this dimension, the only points that move should be these points here at the top. So let's say we wanted that to be 25 feet. I'll hit enter, and perfect. Only these points moved. Not this point, that point, or anything on the end. Only these. So I'm going to Control Z, go back to our original place, and we are making some really good progress now. So really, what we can do at this point is start getting things set to get our form in place. So I'm going to go ahead and set a reference line using my spline for both of my arches. So we'll go reference spline, and I'm definitely going to make sure I have spline, that way I could snap in a 3D fashion here. I'm simply going to go from that end to that end. I'll hit escape here, and we're going to do the exact same thing to this side. So we'll go boom, boom, and boom. Again, I'm hit escape, and I made sure I use my spline. That's what's allowing me to do my 3D snapping here. So now what we need to do is jump into an adaptive environment and create a really simple form that we can then use to trace this form to create our main supports. Now when we create our adaptive element, we need to make sure that we have 3 points. 1, 2, 3. Endpoint, midpoint, and another endpoint. So really quickly, let's jump to an adaptive model template. So I'm going to go to New, we'll go to Family, and we're going to go to Generic Model Adaptive. Like so. Perfect. And really, all we need to do at this point is set our points. So we're going to go Reference, we'll say Point, and I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. We'll select those points, we'll make them adaptive, and actually we'll make them adaptive, and then we'll connect them with a spline. I'm simply going to select that spline button. Now I'm going to scroll in real quick, and I'm going to select the line we just drew, and I'm going to make sure that is a reference line by selecting that box here in my properties. So now all we need to do is get our basic forms in place. So how our form is, basically the endpoints are going to be much thicker than what's going on in the center. And the endpoints are going to be 3 feet 6 inches as far as the distance between from side to side, and it'll be 1.5 feet here in the center. So we need to set our points or reference planes for each one that we draw. So let's go ahead and get that started. So we'll go with set, and I'm going to go with this vertical plane here. We'll go with our rectangle, and I'm just going to get my form in place, but now I can adjust those dimensions really quick. So we'll say that should be 3 feet 6, and then this dimension needs to be 3 feet 6 as well, 3 feet 6. So now all I need to do is basically get this centered on this point, because when I have it placed in my model, I want it to be centered. So I'm going to select it, go with our move button. I'm going to grab this, bring it over to the midpoint here. I'm going to go move again, and I'm going to grab the midpoint and drop it down to that point. Very easy. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for our middle and our end here. So again, we'll go set our plane, we'll go with rectangle. And again, this one's going to be a little different dimension this time. So with this one, dimensions are going to be 1'6", and the dimension will also be 1'6" here as well, 1'6". And again, we're just simply going to move that element, highlight it, move button, grab our midpoint, snap it in place, and we'll do the same thing here. And then we have one last one to do, and this will be our other larger element here. So again, we'll go set, reference plane, grab our rectangle, and we'll create this one as well. And again, that's going to be 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet. So I'm going to select it, change that dimension, 3'6". We'll come on this side, change this dimension as well, 3'6". And now all we need to do is move this element to where it's centered. So we know how to do that by now. We'll simply click and drag like such, hit the move button, click and drag, and boom. So now we have our element here. So now all we really need to do is select each one of the forms we just created. And we'll select this one here as well. And we're going to select our line. And now we're going to create form. And now all we need to do is bring this into our project. But I'm going to save this really quick. So we'll drop down here and I'm going to save this one here. And we'll save this one as our arch. Perfect. So now I can load it into our project. So we'll load it in a project. We'll bring it into my O3 begin here. Set it into our area. Jump to 3D view. And in the next lesson, we'll go ahead and start creating this form by selecting it at each one of these points. So I'll see you in the next lesson.